I had never had a dyslexia teacher ever.
So what does recapture look like on the flip side? Well, let's look at Alamo Heights ISD, for example, a local district that Edgewood parents began looking at all those decades ago. In 2022, Alamo Heights had a recapture amount of nearly $34 million. That was nearly 47% of the district's property tax revenue. More than 30 years after the landmark outcome of the Edgewood ISD lawsuit, questions about the future of Texas public school funds are still swirling. School voucher plans, unfunded safety mandates from the state, property tax compression, and more.
Why are we not adequately funding and especially supporting our classroom teachers in particular with appropriate?
The 6 o'clock news starts right now.
And we begin tonight with the weather. Another day where people have been on edge with the possibility of flooding.
Parts of the KSAT 12 viewing area, including the already flood-ravaged hill country, getting hit with more rain today. Look at this video. It's taken earlier today and shared with us from the Concan Volunteer Fire Department, and it just shows how quickly a situation can turn dangerous.
You see the water moving pretty fast there. We're going to go back to Concan in just a few moments, but for now, let's send things over to meteorologist Adam Caskey for an update on what is happening out there right now. Adam.
Yeah, right now we have downpours east of San Antonio. This is an area where we had two outflow boundaries collide, and now a downpour right along I-10, just west of Seguin, moving through Marion. This is a quick downpour that could give you about a half an inch of rain in a short period of time, and this is headed toward I-35. So from New Berlin to Marion, Zool, you can hear it around you, but there's really no rain over Zool at the moment. It's all headed toward I-35. And this is really the only action we have to speak of out there other than a little shower just south of Lavernia. Again, an area where outflow boundaries came together. And you see this green line. That's an outflow boundary pushing westward into San Antonio. And as that arrives here over the next few hours, could trigger its own showers and thunderstorms and downpours. So that's something we're watching in the short term here over the next couple of hours. As for the river flooding, let me take you off to the west here. Frio River, okay? Concan has already crested. The swell is flowing south to Canipa, and that's where we're anticipating a crest of later on this evening of about 17 feet, 8 to 9 o'clock. And that would primarily be a threat to local agriculture along the river there, and even potentially some livestock. Now, the river has already changed quite a bit. The big swell is coming, but it has already risen quite a bit because of the rainfall from earlier today. And here's actually some drone video that we have for you. And this is about 2.5 miles north of Canipa as the crow flies right along the freeway. You can see that muddy water and how it's overflowed the banks, and it's continuing to rise and will crest at about 17 feet, 8 to 9 o'clock. And again, that's primarily a threat to agriculture and also potentially some livestock. Now in Concan earlier today, we had the crest. It was at about 13 feet at 2 p.m. and now it's on its way downward. We actually do have Avery Everett in Concan. I'm going to zoom in right here, show you her exact spot, right along 127 where it crosses the Frio River in Concan. Now, Avery, it has crested, but what have you seen out there? Were there reports of any water rescues or anything today?
None that we've heard of, Adam. And this is a new perspective for you on the 127 bridge. The river here, the Frio River, has just completely turned into rapids. Take a look. You can see just south of the river and just how fast and forceful that water is flowing. We've been on the bridge for really the last hour, and so many people have come up to us showing us photos from yesterday saying that they were walking across this part of the river. They were tubing yesterday, and now they're being evacuated from some of their camps. Now, that all happened earlier this morning. The real threat was earlier this morning, like you said, Adam. This road, this bridge really just opened open within the last hour. We talked to some officials that were out here who said TxDOT is really leading the charge of whether or not which roads are open, and TxDOT did reopen this bridge, and it's completely dry as far as we can see. We've learned that this bridge is a new bridge, relatively new. Within the last couple of years it opened, and it's higher, and so no water crossed over this bridge. But you can just see the amount of people that are out here, some from this area, others not. We spoke to a woman who was just from Uvalde. We spoke to a family earlier from Houston. They said that they've camped here for the last 5 years. They've never seen it like this. They've only ever seen it a couple of feet at the highest. But some of the long-term residents, I mean, they've seen this before, and their reminder was that this is not what happened 2 weeks ago in the Guadalupe River, last week rather. This is a completely different situation, but it does still show you just how fast moving everything is. Debris we've seen in the water, but we haven't heard of any rescues at this time, and communication has been pretty open. As far as we've seen on social media, there were evacuations earlier this morning, so really now we're just watching, and we're going to continue to follow the river down to Canipa, and that's where we'll be later tonight. Adam.
All right, Avery, we will take it from here. Let's get to the latest out of Kerr County. 97 people reported missing in Kerr County. That is the latest update from Governor Greg Abbott that came in late this afternoon. That number is considerably lower than the 160 plus people reported missing that officials told us about on Friday. During a press conference this afternoon, the governor touched on the discrepancy here. Take a listen.
Those who are missing on this list, most of them, were more difficult to identify because there was no record of them logging in anywhere. And it was through information provided by a friend, a family member, co-worker, whatever the case may be, that they haven't been found.
Meantime, we know the current death toll as a result of the July 4th flooding stands at 106 people in Kerr County. That update came from county officials yesterday at around 5:35 p.m.
And we've reached out to county officials today for any update on the number of people who were killed and those still missing. We'll bring that to you as soon as it comes into our newsroom.
Kerr County in Texas is resilient and strong and will face months, if not years, of recovery.
Meanwhile, a somber tone during today's Kerr County Commissioner's Court. The clear message in Kerr County, there's still lots of work to be done. We'll have more on the Commissioner's Court meeting for you tonight on the Night Beat.
Staying in Kerr County, the monumental effort to find those who were still missing is still well underway. This afternoon, we did learn that a father, a stepmother, and their toddler son have been found deceased. Their names are Leonardo Romero, Natalia Venzer, and Carlos Romero. They are relatives of Leo Romero Jr. Last week, I talked with Leo from his hospital bed in Kerrville. That's where he was recovering after his family's home was swept off its foundation the morning of July 4th. He told me how when the water was rising, his father told Leo and his stepmother to climb up onto the couch while he held his toddler son high up in the air. How did you get out of the house and how did you survive this?
I remember something hitting me on the head. How I recall it is the roof fell, but just next thing I know, house is gone, so I'm just in the water.
Leo was trapped in debris for 4 hours. This is a photo of that. He just turned 19 last week. He has since been released from the hospital. There has been such a tremendous outpouring of support for Leo after we shared his story. And if you would like to help, we have a link to do that on our website at KSAT.com.
And KSAT wants to remember those we lost in the catastrophic flooding. So far, officials are not confirming the identities of those who died, but our team has been working to gather as much information as we can about those victims. Now, often that information, it comes from family members. You can scan that QR code on your screen to read more about what we've learned about those lives lost.
So when the floods took over the Hill Country on July 4th, responders ran right toward the crisis.
Some of those are counselors ready to take on the task of caring for the community's mental health. Our Courtney Friedman met with a counselor who has been out in the field leading a team in the Hill Country since the very beginning. Courtney joins us live now in Kerrville. Courtney.
Yeah, Myra and Daniela, when you think of first responders, a lot of people don't immediately think of counselors and therapists, but they have been key to holding this community together like a glue for this community that is deeply grieving. So when I got to meet some of those counselors, I wanted to know what their experience has been like, what are some of the toughest things they've experienced, but I also asked how they're doing because obviously this is affecting their mental health as well.
Are you from here?
Through the storm of July 4th and every day since, professional counselor Kelly Harris has been prioritizing the mental health of every person in her Hill Country community. What is the toughest thing that you've encountered?
The hardest part is definitely seeing the families. I know we still have many that are missing, and that is part of just the not knowing. And then on the other side, when people do know, it's a different type of grief.
Kelly has worked with the Ecumenical Center for a decade in Sutherland Springs, Uvalde, and other crisis situations, offering this type of help for free to anyone.
We'll get something that says, hey, we need you at a morning briefing for our first responders. And then we'll have people say that we need to go to a pet place for volunteers that are working with pets, and they just need someone to talk to.
A lot of her work is with first responders.
The first responders are really busy right now, and so we're supporting them as needed, but we're also telling them we're here with you for the long haul.
In an exclusive interview with the team overseeing river recovery operations in Ingram and Hunt, Fredericksburg Fire Marshal Reagan Rabke and Fire Chief Lynn Bizzle admitted mental health is a challenge.
The department members here, they lost loved ones in this tragic situation. We want to try to make sure that when we leave here, that they're taken care of.
They see this day in, day out, and it does take a toll over time, and we're trying to provide them everything they need.
One of the things that we distribute is for our first responders.
I recognize that. We made some of these at the Ecumenical Center on Monday in San Antonio. I love to see you giving them out.
It's great. There's towels, there's socks.
This is your trauma as well. How do you take care of yourself?
As a clinician, I have a team that supports me. I have coaches, I have a therapist. I go to church, I have my faith, and I sleep when it's time to sleep.
She knows it's crucial because she has vowed to be here for the long haul.
This is my community. I live just down the road, and so this community is going to need people that can help for a long time.
And she wants to remind people that anyone is welcome to get this free counseling. Just residents, the people who live here and are visiting here. I've talked to a lot of them today here at this pavilion overlooking the Guadalupe. It was very triggering for a lot of people to see heavy rain come down again today. So it's clear the river is moving quickly. If your mental health is suffering because of this, there's help for you. So make sure to reach out to the Ecumenical Center. We have that number on our website, KSAT.com. Reporting live in Kerrville, Courtney Friedman, KSAT 12 News. Back to you.
Yeah, an incredibly important message for so many of us in our community. Well, the rain today forced evacuations there in Kerr County, and it stalled relief efforts.
Erica Hernandez shows us how one nonprofit that was ready to serve meals to hot survivors had to pivot today, but they are not giving up.
For days, the nonprofit Mercy Chefs has been stationed in Ingram, ready to serve food, comfort, and care to first responders and families who lost everything in last week's floods. They prepped, packed up, and left to deliver to 20 spots around the county. But as they tried to make their way into Hunt, the road was shut down. Again, another stall today as storms like this keep popping up here in the Ingram and Hunt area, making them stop deliveries, but also evacuations now occurring from Hunt into Ingram.
Our teams can't go. I mean, where we're delivering meals, people are being actively evacuated for the second day in a row. So this rain, just the overcast, it's heavy.
Mercy Chefs, who have responded to disasters nationwide, said this is nothing they've seen before, as more rain keeps stopping efforts. But in a community already hurting, the wait is hard.
I can't imagine the folks that are here watching the river come up. It's not flooding like it did the other day, but even to watch it come up an inch or a foot, it just has to sting inside on so many levels.
Despite the setback, the team isn't leaving. They're staying nearby, monitoring conditions, and say they'll be ready to roll out hot meals as soon as it's safe to do so. It's a pause, not a stop, in a mission that goes beyond food.
But we're not going to leave here until we've done everything that we need to do. If that's 10 days or 10 weeks or 10 months, we'll continue to stay with the people here in Texas as long as we're needed.
Erica Hernandez, KSAT 12 News.
Happening tomorrow, our KSAT community partners are holding a phone bank to help with the Kerr County flood relief effort. We are calling our donation effort Together for Texas.
Yeah, and it's happening from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. All of the funds raised will go directly to the community and to the on-the-ground efforts in flood-affected areas through the Salvation Army.
Still to come here on the news at 6, we are keeping an eye on the weather situation in the Hill Country, also along with the rest of our KSAT 12 viewing area. Adam Caskey will have your full forecast.
And 5 hours is all it took for San Antonio police to find the man you're looking at, suspected of killing 2 people in a parking lot. The details surrounding the murders right after the break.
A man is in jail tonight in connection to a double murder that happened in an HEB parking lot.
Yeah, this is 46-year-old Lorenzo Aleman being escorted by San Antonio police officers. Investigators say he's accused of shooting his ex-partner and another man. The deadly shooting happened just before 11 last night at the HEB on South New Braunfels Avenue. That's where police say they found a man and a woman dead from gunshot wounds.
Officers say that Aleman took off after shooting the pair, but he was arrested just about 5 hours later. We also want to take this opportunity to remind you that if you or someone you know is going through a domestic violence situation, you don't have to suffer in silence. Scan the QR code on your screen for a list of free resources. Let's take a look at TransGuide out there. This is a view from I-35 at Salado Creek. We showed you this view earlier at 5. There was a big backup there because of an accident, had one lane closed, but things all clear now. Traffic moving along just fine in both directions.
Yeah, that's cleared up, and I know the sky is kind of cleared up. I know earlier we heard the rain coming down here at KSAT. Sky's clear right here at this view right here.
Yeah, we're fine right now. We have a mixture of sun and clouds overhead. We could still see a few more pop-up downpours here in the hours ahead and even into tonight. But the flood watch has been extended through 7 a.m. tomorrow. But I want to show you what caused the problems along the Frio River earlier today, and it's all of this rainfall. Look at the rainfall estimates from National Weather Service Doppler radar. And let's start near Lakey, where there was some flooding, of course, of the Frio there. And then it all flowed downstream. But we had over 7 to even 9 inches of rain right along the watershed of the Frio River, which is basically this entire purple area as part of that watershed. And that's where we had the extraordinary amounts of rainfall. And it came in just a matter of hours, too. That's the thing. If it came over, say, a span of days, it'd be nothing. But the river is swelling, and now that swell, the crest, likely to be near Knippa around 9 p.m. at 17 feet. Also, let's take a look here. You get just south of Brackettville in Kinney County, over 10 and 11 inches in spots, stretching all the way into parts of northern Maverick County and even into Quemado. Quemado, kind of the midpoint between Del Rio and Eagle Pass. And on our KSAT Connect, we have a picture posted of a 7-inch rain gauge completely overflowing in that area right now. And even in western Kerr County today, this got in the way of the recovery efforts. Look at the rainfall. 2 to even 3 inches of rain in western Kerr County along the watershed of the Guadalupe River, and all that flows in there. Okay, a look at the current radar, and what we have out there, a lot of it is what we don't have out there at the moment. But there are a few little downpours along this outflow boundary that continues to march westward. And the outflow boundary, it's this rough green line right here that's headed westward, and that in and of itself can kickstart new showers. Now, we had a little bit of lightning, but now it's just a downpour. I-35, basically between New Braunfels and Selma, and then also near 1604 and Highway 87 here, right around Lone Oak. These aren't moving significantly. We'll go back to the past hour and you'll see the evolution. These are pretty quick splash and dash, and they do move northward at a fairly decent clip. So they are progressive. Odds of flash flooding with these are actually pretty slim at the moment. All right, quick look at that flood watch, which has been extended all the way through Tuesday morning. We could have isolated areas of 1 to 3 inches and locally higher amounts. In this situation, things can change really, really quickly. And I want to talk about, speaking of changes, the lakes and reservoirs, okay? And particularly of notice today is Buchanan. So now with all the recent rainfall and even just rain today and yesterday near Buchanan, they've opened 4 of the floodgates at the Buchanan Dam. And it's the first time they've had the flood dams open or those operations since May of 2019. So it's just 1 foot below the conservation pool, so they're letting the water out now into the Inks Lake. And Travis at 76%. Luckily, it was actually pretty low, just like Canyon Lake, because it was able to absorb the big swell of water from the floods recently. Okay, really quickly, want to talk about what we're watching next, and that's this cluster of thunderstorms, very unorganized, around the Bahamas and Florida. That's headed westward into the northern Gulf. There's a slight chance it could develop into our next tropical depression or tropical storm. If it doesn't, which odds favor right now, then it would drift westward and become another chance of rain for us as we get into late Thursday night and on into Friday. That would be about a 20 to 30% chance at that point from some upper level energy that would be moving in. Tomorrow, 30% chance throughout the day, even tonight and into tomorrow. So some isolated pop-up downpours, localized heavy rain possible here and there. And then we get a chance to dry out Wednesday and Thursday, humid, mid-90s, seasonable temperatures. And then we're watching that upper level energy from Florida for Friday. That's the thing you'll want to check back in and get updated on.
All right. Thank you so much, Adam.
All right, Larry joins us now. New face on the Spurs, Dylan Harper, making his Summer League debut.
Yeah, so we all know Dylan Harper can score, but the Spurs are really thrilled with what he can do on defense along with Carter Bryant. The Spurs, as you know, are all about defense. And Kason Cunningham heard his name called in the MLB draft going in the top 20. We got it coming up. Victor Wembanyama is all smiles because he's been cleared to resume full contact. Today he announced that he's recovered from the blood clot in his right shoulder, per French sports journalist Maxime Oba. After missing the final 36 games of the Spurs season with a blood clot, Wembanyama can resume full contact and practices and will have several months to get back in playing shape. Wemby underwent surgery on the deep vein thrombosis in his right shoulder back in March, and the Spurs have officially cleared him to return to action. And here's what Wemby had to say, quote, "I'm officially cleared to return. It just happened. I got the green light from the Spurs medical staff just a few hours ago. Phew, I'll finally be able to play a bit of basketball again," end quote. After sitting out with a minor groin injury, Spurs rookie Dylan Harper made his summer league debut Saturday against the Mavericks, and Harper scored 16 points in 20 minutes. He also had this sweet and won a #1 overall draft pick, Cooper Flagg. And then right before halftime, Harper jumped high to block this shot attempt by Ryan Nembhard. He had that disc to go along with 2 steals.
Yeah, him and Carter, they both bring great size for 19-year-olds. They are enormous. They are strong. They are built for the NBA. It'll take time to get used to the pace of a true NBA game. And as Dylan gets back in shape, we know he is a two-way player. So as excited as everyone is for his offense, we are extremely excited what he brings defensively.
Something Coach said was the offensive game is obviously it for you, but he said he's specifically very excited for what you bring on the defensive end. Is that something you're trying to work on, trying to highlight to bring to this roster next year?
I mean, yeah, definitely. I think if you don't play defense, you're not going to be able to court. So just trying my best is learning new stuff, how to go over screens, guard the ball, stuff like that is definitely an area I look to grow and just keep on getting better at.
The 2-0 Spurs will play the 0-2 Utah Jazz tonight at 7:30 at the Thomas and Mack Center. San Antonio IndyCar driver Pato O'Ward on Saturday won the St. 275 at Iowa Speedway. Making his 100th series start, O'Ward held off Joseph Newgarden to grab the checkered flag. O'Ward kept Newgarden behind him on restarts with 14 and 9 laps remaining.
This is great. We've been waiting for this one all year. It's crazy. My 50th race was also a win here in Iowa, and that's the only other win I have here. So it's a cool story. Great job by by my Arrow McLaren guys and gals. This Chevy powered machine was. I think it's 1, 2, 3, right? 1, 2, 3 Chevy podium. So I'd say it was about time. I'm super happy. I'm the Chevy guy that gave them their first win this year, and. Yeah, I mean, Joseph's the master at these races. He rules around here, so I knew that we had to be spot on, and I had to be so precise on the in laps to beat him at his own game. So, this is awesome.
O'Ward now has 8 career wins in the IndyCar series.
With the 18th pick of the 2025 MLB Draft, the Arizona Diamondbacks select Kason Cunningham, a shortstop from Lady Bird Johnson High School in San Antonio, Texas.
MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred with the call announcing that the Arizona Diamondbacks drafted Johnson star baseball player Kason Cunningham at number 18 overall, and he was the first 210 player off the board this year. He impressed the Diamondbacks while he was in Arizona for the MLB Draft Combine, so they drafted him. Now the Texas Longhorns commit has to decide on his next move.
Okay, we will see what happens.
Yep.
Thank you, Larry.
Thanks, Larry.
Still to come here on the news at 6, the editor with the San Antonio Business Journal will join us live.
Our KSAT Q&A segment is coming up right after the break.
right, in today's KSAT Q&A, we're talking everything from tariffs to tourism here in San Antonio. We are joined by Ed Arnold, the editor of the San Antonio Business Journal. We see him every couple of weeks. We appreciate you being here as always.
I'm always a pleasure to do it.
Okay, so tariff whiplash really continues. Yes. It's a lot to follow, I know, but we're this far in to the second Trump administration. Are we getting any clearer idea of the local impact of these tariffs?
I will say that the actual cost impact to consumers is still up in the air, but we are seeing costs already being laid out by some of our business members. So we spoke to several people, several business owners that didn't want to talk too much on the record, but said to us that they had spent the first half of the year stockpiling imported goods, trying to make sure that when these tariffs did eventually hit, if they eventually hit, that they would not necessarily suffer instantly. So they stocked up tons and tons of consumer goods, and they're working their way through that supply now. So consumer prices may not be spiking, even though businesses are already reacting to it.
What kind of goods in particular? Do you have
anything that will be shelf stable? Any consumer good, anything that maybe you can find on the shelf of your average store that you could store for half a year, they're trying to load up on. Anything related to building materials we've seen, anything related to any steel, copper. I noticed that an electrical company in town was just stockpiling copper wire, because obviously there's a new tariff being proposed on copper that started last week.
Ah, yes.
Every house needs electrical wire, and it's all copper.
Okay. You mentioned something, too, about the consumer price index, getting a clearer picture of how that may affect this tariff track we're on.
It's an incredibly boring report, but we're all going to be really watching it tightly tomorrow, is the consumer price index report, which is essentially our best estimate of what inflation is doing. The administration seems to think that if this report is flat or lower, then they've got a green light to lay these tariffs on. The market is not too worried about them. If the cost of the prices of end goods doesn't spike, I think there's a good chance that they're going to feel emboldened to push these forward on August 1st. On the other hand, if we see prices really spiking over this last period, maybe they'll get a little more hesitant.
All right.
We'll wait and see.
Yeah, so it's been a year now since Project Marvel has first started as rumors. Now, we've seen,
Yes.
So now we're in the community meetings. What are you hearing about what the business community thinks about all this?
The business community loves Project Marvel for the most part. The business community overall thinks that there needs to be a new downtown plan, that there needs to be something new for downtown in order for the core of the city to be as enlivened as it should be. At the same time, no one is lining up to put their own money on the line, are they? So that's going to be a big problem for the public. The mayor, for example, our new mayor, seems to be not diving in front of stopping Project Marvel, but also wanting to slow walk this. This is not a project that came with her. She did not campaign on this, so she wants to make sure that she's sort of slowing it down. On the other hand, y'all, there's supposed to be a referendum in November. If we don't get that referendum in November, it's not going to happen. So someone's got to start putting pressure going.
Yeah, getting some more defined answers on those dollar amounts. Where's the money coming from? All of those things.
Exactly.
That are still questions a year later. I want to ask you about tourism.
Absolutely.
Speaking of downtown, we had you on several weeks ago. You were talking about how the tourism forecast for San Antonio, normally a big hot spot for that this time of year especially, wasn't looking great, and it sounds like that's kind of panning out.
It's panning out. The hotels downtown are having an okay summer. I don't think that they are going to come launching out of this summer with a lot of excitement, but while we were spending so much time watching downtown, the other areas of the city's tourism and hotels were not doing well. So, for example, we got some numbers a few weeks ago that showed that the hotels on the south part of town near the Missions, which we all had sort of hoped would get a bump from the UNESCO, the Missions themselves, we'd get more tourism to them, they are suffering right now. Those hotels down in that part of town are off pre-pandemic numbers. So, whereas the downtown hotels have just getting close to that downtown, to that pre-pandemic number, other parts of town are light years away from it.
How significant is that for a city like San Antonio?
It's way more significant maybe than people realize, because one of the key differentiators that we have is the tourism business that we have. It is a key differentiator from Austin, which has lots of tourism, but it doesn't stake its claim on it the way we stake our claim on it. Generations of Texans have come to see the Alamo, and I sure hope that that's going to be the case again when all the renovations come through. They look great. But it's definitely having an impact on the number of people coming to town, and that slow trickle of lots of dollars is going to be felt by everyone, whether they work in the business or not.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, I know San Antonio is kind of known as a convention town. Do you feel like there's been fewer conventions?
No question there's been fewer conventions. The weekend warriors have come forward for San Antonio, folks who are driving in to spend the weekend enjoying the town and then spend the week. But it's those big old 5,000, 3,000, 7,000 person conventions that have not come back. We did an interview with the new CEO of Visit San Antonio a few weeks ago, And he said that it was a fascinating interview because he said that there's a new strategy that they're going to adopt, which is attempting to head up to Austin and snatch some of their convention business while their convention center's under construction. And their hope is if they can do that, they can convince them to stay and perhaps divert some of that business away. It's the first time I've ever heard a Visit San Antonio or a tourism person in the area actively talk about trying to
just come out and say it.
Just say, I'm going to go up there and try to get some.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Well, there you go. A little competition. Hopefully. Up by 35.
Yeah.
Ed Arnold, always appreciate you being here. Of course, you can find the reporting that Ed was mentioning on San Antonio Business Journal. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
All right, still to come about the news on 6. Anyone who has ever taken part or taken the path of becoming a citizen in the United States knows that process can be daunting. After the break, some words of encouragement from those who became citizens themselves.
Becoming an American citizen is not easy, but it can be done.
Japhanie Gray shares the encouraging message from a group of 49 people from 20 different countries. They've just completed their journey to become naturalized citizens.
Their message today, the American dream is truly possible for anyone who wants to do it.
I'm from South Africa.
Palestine.
Afghanistan.
Mexico.
Burma.
How long did it take?
About 9 months. 5 years.
Couple months.
Like 4 years. 50.
What was it that drew you to want to be an American citizen?
Well, I got married and I have 2 kids.
10, 11 years old, I always wanted to be American. We watched all the movies and the cartoons, and I was like, yeah, man, I want to be there one day. Was it difficult going through the steps?
So there were some parts, some parts where you did it and you think everything's good, and then all of a sudden at the last minute it got canceled, and then you got to start all over again and so forth. But, if this is something that you want to achieve and something that you believe in, it's worth the wait.
How do you feel? What's your emotions like right now?
I'm like excited.
I'm very grateful to become a citizen. but I'm also very cognizant of what the responsibilities are. Everyone always thinks like, oh, I'm here, what do I get? But which is wonderful, but it's also, well, how do I contribute now? How do I also give back?
It reminds me of, when I enlisted for the Marine Corps, said the oath of enlistment is just as important, To be an American citizen is awesome, Go through the process, do what you got to do.
It will take time, but you can do it.
Each of you is now a citizen of the United States of America. Congratulations.
That was our Jaffe Gray reporting. I love what that one guy said about the responsibility of it,
Yeah.
It's not just what you get out of it, it's what you put into it.
And I
think we could all use that.
Yeah, and the sense of pride that they all have. I mean, they worked for years to get to that point.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Congrats to so many of them. All right, look outside with live cam. You see those clouds off in the distance. We've really been focusing on the radar today, Adam.
Yeah, and the radar has really simmered down. Just a couple of stray downpours. I want to talk about this. This is some drone video from KSAT Connect, just north of Knippa by about 2.5 miles from earlier today, and the river is still rising in this spot. Now, the most pronounced rise from 2 to 2:15 p.m. was about 6 feet in 15 minutes, and the flow went from a trickle to 2,600 cubic feet per second in that 15-minute span, and it's still rising. I'll have the latest crest forecast for the Frio River there, and of course, we'll look at what's left on the radar screen in just a bit.
All right, Adam, most of this weather activity, the rain that's been on the radar, it's kind of moved out of San Antonio, at least for now.
Yeah, it has dissipated for the most part. There's this one boundary that's moving westward. See this green line on the radar screen? It's a little bit of lift is what it's helping generate, a few downpours, but they're very brief splash and dash, and nothing that would cause any further flooding. That kind of rain is over with, at least for now, but keep in mind, we could see some more development overnight tonight and into the early morning hours tomorrow. Let's take a look at some of the rainfall closer to San Antonio today. And you see, we had some downpours. It was just streaky around town, and most of it was under ½ an inch. You get into far northern Bexar County, where you see the green on the screen, basically Camp Bullis area, and that's where we had about a half an inch of rain, but lesser amounts right through the middle of Bexar County, all the way into downtown, where we saw, generally speaking, about a quarter of an inch here and there, and maybe 4/10 of an inch in some spots. That's about it. We're watching right now, of course, the Frio River out near Canepa. It's already crested at Concan, and that was earlier today at about 13 feet. And here's one reason why it's flooding. Well, the reason why it's flooding, it's the very high rainfall right over the watershed of the Frio River here. Of course, starts up just north of Lakey, but from Lakey all the way down to near Concan, over 8 to, and in some instances, 9 inches of rain estimated by Doppler radar. So let's take a look at the latest hydrograph from NOAA National Weather Service. And you see how it's quickly rising right now. And this is basically the river gauge just south of Highway 90, just south of Canepa. And we're expecting this quick spike just over the next couple of hours, and then a crest around 8, 9 o'clock, and that would be at nearly 17 feet. Now, really, it's pretty much just a threat to some of the agricultural areas along the river and potentially some livestock, but that should really be the impact with the crest near Canepa in the next couple of hours. But look at these rainfall totals. And this, of course, is a very drought-stricken part of our area, and the drought monitor will be changing for many locations around here. But you go from Brackettville to Quemado, and rainfall amounts, especially where you get these little white spots, rainfall amounts of over 10 inches estimated by Doppler radar. Astounding amounts of rainfall. Luckily, this isn't over an immediate, waterway or watershed. Obviously, the Rio Grande taking a lot of this, and they are seeing the river rise from Quemado all the way down to Eagle Pass. And we have a new article on KSAT.com regarding evacuations around Quemado at the moment. I want to talk about the overall setup in our atmosphere. Still rain-making energy, these little swirls up above us, and they'll be around to some extent into tomorrow as well, so a 30% chance. Upper level high is going to nose its way in just enough for a few days to give us a break from rain chances, but then farther east, look at this. This is the upper level low, basically a cluster of unorganized thunderstorms around Florida, parts of the Bahamas, and that's going to be heading westward and basically gets steered right into Texas and gives us another chance of some showers and storms by Friday, I think Thursday night on into Friday. And as usual, as this is headed westward into the Gulf, the Hurricane Center tracking it for the potential of developing into the next tropical depression or tropical storm. Right now, there's a 30% chance of that. So assuming it doesn't organize, then it would give us our rain chances by Friday. If it does organize, then everything changes. And this is one of those situations in our atmosphere where things change very quickly. So check back for updates. Tomorrow, low 90s, 30% chance, and then a break in sunshine Wednesday, Thursday, and then some isolated chances Friday. But that's subject to change. So check back for updates.
All right. Thank you, Adam.
Well, here's a look at what's coming up tonight on ABC Primetime at 7. Bachelor in Paradise, followed by The Night Beat at 10.
All right, KSAT Sports Now is streaming your way. Coming up at 7 o'clock tonight, we got a lot to talk about, including the San Antonio Spurs. Victor Wembanyama announced today that he has been cleared for full contact. That is awesome for him as he comes back from that deep vein thrombosis in his right shoulder. We're also talking about the Spurs Summer League squad. They are taking on the Utah Jazz tonight. Number 2 overall pick Dylan Harper got the face-off against the number 1 overall pick on Saturday, Cooper Flagg and the Mavs. That was certainly a good test for the Spurs, and they came out on top. We're also talking the 2025 Major League Baseball draft, which started on Sunday with the first 3 rounds, and KSAT Cunningham from Johnson High School was the very first player called from the 2-1-0. We got all that and much more coming up tonight at 7 on KSAT Sports Now.
Here at KSAT, we, along with KPRC, our sister station in Houston, and our parent company, Graham Media Group, along with Gray Media, have united to launch a donation drive called Together for Texas to help out flood victims.
You can scan the QR code on your screen to donate, and so far, thanks to your generosity, it should be popping up there. The campaign has already raised more than $800,000.
These are pictures of many of the victims that we have confirmed lost their lives in these floods. We have everything we know about their story on our website right now at KSAT.com.
Yeah, and a reminder happening tomorrow. Our KSAT community partners are holding a phone bank to help with the Kerr County flood relief effort. We're calling our donation effort Together for Texas.
It is happening from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. All of the funds raised will go directly to the community and the on-the-ground efforts in flood-affected areas through the Salvation Army. And if you want to stay up to date with all of our coverage but aren't sure how sometimes, we want to hear from you. KSAT 12 is hosting a town hall later on this month at Santikos Casablanca. We'll be discussing how to receive our KSAT content, any signal issues you might have, and we'll be taking questions from the community.
So just scan that QR code on your screen to sign up for a seat. This is a free event happening Wednesday, July 23rd from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. You can find out more information on our website, ksat.com.
All right, just a reminder, where the Frio River still flooding and expected to crest just outside or south of Canepa around 8-9 p.m. at 17 feet. Primarily just a threat to some agriculture in the area and potentially even livestock as well. Going ahead tonight through tomorrow, some isolated downpours and then a break Wednesday and Thursday.
All right, thanks, Adam. And thank you for watching the News at 6.
We'll see you on the night beat.